Oh, we had to do a little rush across the studio. That's the only exercise I'm going to get.
Aerobics.
Yes, that's it. That's it for the week. Now, if your hands are looking a little bit ropey and your nails are in dire need of a good manicure, don't bother booking into your local beauty salon. Get yourself a health checkup, but a rather different one, actually. That's, according to Palmist Robin Lown, the state of your hands is a pretty good indication of the state of your health. So why don't doctors look at your hands rather than look down your throat then, Robin?
Bad breath.
So that was unfair of me. So, how can that be then? How can you tell from looking at you?
Well, I think the best thing is to contrast it with what you expect to see. An unhealthy hand is probably the way to start. What is an unhealthy hand? Well, if you looked at inside your hands, mine are rather sweaty right now, but you would have actually probably flaky skin. You might have lots of lines which are actually digging into your skin. You may also find that certain parts of your nails are flaky. You might have ridges on your nails. They might be blotchy in parts of your hand. That's the sort of thing that happens to people who become unhealthy. So an unhealthy hand is actually what you don't expect to see.
Right, OK. So let's look at some specific things. What about stress then? Because, I mean, they reckon these days stress causes most illnesses, don't they?
It's a lovely word, isn't it? I think stress should be, replaced with the phrase that this is unrelenting pressure. You can have pressure in marriage, you can have pressure in your job, you can have pressure in anything. But for one person, stress, another person is motivated by. I mean, if you can go back to basics, we said earlier on, going back to some programs ago, if we had a square-handed person with short fingers, they like to be active. It's what they like to do. And you would expect them to be in that sort of job, probably outdoors or doing something physical.
So one person's stress, another person's stimulation then, Robin?
Yes, if we could swap them round and take a long-handed person and long fingers, they actually got stress of the mind. And if you put them in a very physical environment, and it's perpetual, they would feel quite downhearted and stressed up. But lines begin to show. I can actually show some of them which do arrive. So taking the fingertips first, where a lot of lines do occur, you sometimes get this kind of long ridges or long lines running up the fingertips. They're not so bad if they run lengthwise, but as soon as they begin to grid up, creating this kind of look, gridding, you actually find that this person is getting stressed. And they can arrive anywhere on the hand, but particularly on the fingertips. And this is, in a sense, the mental world, which actually shows you more mental stress. The second part of your joints, your fingertips, actually show more practical, things that are on a practical level, everyday stress, workplace. And the last thing underneath here is probably the material stress when they really do get gridded up. These people are having great difficulty with money.
Well, I'm covered in those,
So that's what shows up to begin with. Those are very obvious ones, but you can get even more obvious ones than that. The way to look at it is look at the thumb and lines coming across the hand. We often get lots of radiation of lines running this way across the hand with very highly emotional people. So
we're covered in those, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, you would be, wouldn't you?
Would we?
But there again, I mean, you would expect to see some of that in everybody. But if we put those people in different jobs, the mismatch doesn't occur.
It's the mismatch which is causing the stress.
Often does, yeah. I mean, we often say mismanagement. Maybe that's the problem. Partly mismanagement of their own life, but maybe they're in the wrong job. But that can be showing on people's hands at a very early stage.
I don't really understand that. What do you mean by mismatch, then? How can you tell if you've got a mismatch on your hands?
Well, let's go back to what we said before. If you are a square-handed person and you're in a very, very technical, mental job, if it is perpetual and you're not out there doing things and you're having to sit and think too long and be technical, then you will find these lines will begin to occur. It is the unrelenting pressure. But that's the basis of all disease, in the sense that that's the malaise which happens to a lot of us and slowly creeps into our lives and other symptoms happen.
I mean, do you think there are specific health areas that you can detect from your hands?
Yes, there are. Particularly, it shows in people's hands when they have particular trouble with their digestion. Now, I suffer from this from time to time.
Especially during television shows.
And my nails are terrible. But if you look at people's nails, particularly, they will have ridges running long ways at the top of their finger, and quite often these ridges are quite pronounced. So on their fingernails, these long ridges can show stomach trouble. And doctors often look at nails, and if they're highly ridged, can often say, well, you've got irritable bowel problem or something wrong with your digestion here.
Do you really think, do doctors use them as a diagnostic aid then?
Yes, they do, but not everyone knows that.
Yeah. What about the white, you sometimes get white splodges on your nails, is that a health thing as well?
That's, again, old wives' tale to a certain extent used to say, lack of calcium.
Yes.
Drink more milk.
Yeah.
You know, you drink gallons of milk and they don't seem to go. The thing is, it's probably more to do with zinc and those trace elements, but obviously the nails with flecks on them do show stresses. And if you've got white flecks on your nails, it takes 3 months for a nail to grow. If you've got a fleck somewhere halfway up your nail, you know about a month or so ago there was quite a lot of stress in your life.
A bit late then, isn't it?
Yes.
I should get out more.
Enough.
Oh no, I should have got out more.
Yes. But those are only indications, they're symptoms anyway. And prevention is always better than cure.
What about other illness? Are there any other illnesses you reckon you can detect, or
well, they
tendencies to illnesses?
The tendencies to illnesses come out very, very early on, and you can actually see on people's lines. If we say take the top line, which is the heart, it's the heart line. Emotional illness sometimes shows by little islands or even crosses and boxes across this line. For mental stress, particularly the headline shows, if you have boxes on here, and also little islands, little shapes like bubbles, can often show a great deal of mental stress. So yes, this is more the mental breakdown, this is more emotional trouble.
I've had everything.
Well, a good job too. And around the lifeline here, you will sometimes see the same things, little islands, little crosses and boxes, which does show stress in your life, the physical body.
Let that camerawoman have a cough. You see, we're talking about illness, and poor old Mel on camera 1, she's fluttering away behind there.
Has nothing to do with the nails.
It's just talking about, just reminded her, you know, that she's not feeling too great. Yeah, have a good cough.
You know what my mother always used to say, and my grandmother used to say, prevention is better than cure. Excess is bad for you. A little bit of what you fancy does you good, but make sure you get to bed, you have a bit of rest, and have a break.
There you go. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the whole series, Robin. Thank you particularly for that last bit.
Yeah,
but that's been great. I don't think we've done very much broadcasting, because all we've done is look at our hands for every time we've been in here.
What a trial we were going through.
Let's talk about us again. Anyway, thank you, Robin.
Thank you.